Struggling dad walks miles to job the driver who picks him up is a billionaire's daughter every morning before sunrise. Jacob Ramirez tied his worn-out sneakers, kissed his daughter Emma on the forehead, and began his 7-mile walk to the construction site across town. A single dad and former mechanic, Jacob had lost nearly everything after his wife passed away. With no car, limited savings, and daycare costing more than rent, walking to work was his only option. He never complained, not to his boss, not to his daughter, and not to the neighbors who barely noticed him. To Jacob, providing for Emma was worth every blister, every aching muscle. But on a Tuesday morning, after a cold rainstorm, fate intervened. Jacob was halfway through his walk when a sleek black SUV pulled over beside him. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a young woman in gym clothes, her hair in a ponytail and coffee in hand. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like you've been walking forever." "I'm all right," Jacob replied, politely. "Just heading to work." "In those shoes? Come on, let me give you a ride. It's freezing." He hesitated. Accepting help wasn't easy for him, but the pain in his knee made the decision. The woman introduced herself as Clara Weston. She was friendly, curious, and didn't talk down to him. As they drove, she asked questions that didn't feel invasive, just genuine. "What do you do?" she asked. "I'm on a site crew. Nothing fancy, but it pays enough to keep the lights on." "And your daughter? You mentioned her." "Emma. She's 6, smart as a whip and obsessed with drawing. She wants to be an architect." "Crazy, right?" Clara smiled. "Not crazy at all." When she dropped him off, Clara glanced at the dusty job site, then back at Jacob. "Same time tomorrow." Jacob laughed. "Only if you like hearing me complain about sore knees." Clara kept showing up. Every morning, she'd pick Jacob up without fail, sometimes with breakfast, sometimes just a smile and music. She never revealed more than her first name, and Jacob never asked. He didn't want to ruin the one good thing that felt like grace. But one morning, Clara wasn't driving her SUV. She pulled up in a luxury town car, the kind Jacob had only seen in magazines. She was dressed sharply, with a briefcase in her lap and 2 phones ringing in her hands. "You okay?" he asked. She gave a sheepish smile. "I have to come clean. I'm not just Clara. I'm Clara Weston. My dad owns Weston Global." Jacob froze. Weston Global was a billion-dollar conglomerate. He'd once applied for janitorial work at their HQ, didn't even get an interview. Why me?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "Because I used to think money solved everything. But after my mom died last year, I realized how much loneliness wealth can't fix. You walk miles for your daughter. You show up with nothing but heart and grit. I needed to remember what that looked like." Clara didn't just keep driving. She offered him something bigger. A role at Weston Global's logistics department. Opened up a week later. Clara vouched for him personally. Not charity. He had to earn it, and he did. Months passed. Jacob no longer walked to work. Emma had her own room, new shoes, and a sketchbook that never ran out of pages. One evening, Jacob brought Emma to Weston Global's campus for a father-daughter event. As Clara watched Emma show off her drawings to the company architects, she whispered to Jacob, "Told you, not crazy." He smiled. "No, just extraordinary, like her ride to school." And from that day forward, Jacob never walked alone again, not on the road, and not in life. Jacob Ramirez never thought his life would come to this, walking 7 miles to a job site every morning, counting pennies just to put together a simple dinner for his daughter. But he wasn't bitter, just tired. Life had been cruel to him after his wife's passing from cancer. The medical bills, the grief, the missed work, they piled up fast. He lost his car, then their home. What he didn't lose was his pride in being a father. At 5:30 a.m., he'd slip on his old steel-toed boots, sling his bag over his shoulder, and quietly leave the small studio apartment he shared with his daughter, Emma. His routine never changed: walk, work, return, read bedtime stories. Emma never knew how hard he struggled, and Jacob intended to keep it that way. One rainy Tuesday, as Jacob trudged through a muddy sidewalk in his thin hoodie, a black SUV pulled up beside him, and the window rolled down. "Hey, do you need a ride?" a woman's voice called out. He stopped, cautious. "Depends who's asking." She laughed softly. "Not a serial killer, I promise. I saw you walking yesterday too. Look, I've got a heater, and you look like you're freezing." He studied her. She couldn't have been older than 30, brown ponytail, running shoes, honest eyes. "All right," he said after a beat, "but just to the bridge. I can walk the rest." "Deal," she said, reaching over to unlock the door. "I'm Clara, Jacob." Inside, the SUV was warm and smelled like cinnamon. Clara handed him a thermos. "Ginger tea warms you up faster than coffee." He sipped carefully. "Thanks. Where do you work?" "Construction, on Jefferson and 3rd. That's a long walk. Every day." "Every day," he said, eyes fixed on the road. "Buses are unreliable, and Emma needs every cent I earn. Can't risk being late." Clara blinked. "Emma, my daughter. She's 6, loves Legos, hates oatmeal, wants to be an architect." Clara smiled. "Sounds like a rock star." He nodded. "She is." The rides continue the next morning. Clara was there again. "Same SUV, same warmth. Bridge?" she asked. He chuckled. "Might let you go all the way today." And so it began, a quiet ritual. Each ride became a conversation. They talked about dreams, childhood, loss, and the world. Jacob found her curious, kind, but never nosy. She never pitied him, and that mattered. He never asked what she did. Something told him there was more to her than gym leggings and smoothies. The reveal one Friday. Clara pulled up in a different car, a silver Bentley. Jacob's brows rose. "This new," she sighed, almost sheepishly. "I didn't tell you something. I'm not just Clara. My last name is Weston. My father owns Weston Global." Jacob's hand paused on the door handle, as in, the Weston Global. She nodded. "I didn't tell you, because I wanted to be treated like a human being. And I wanted to help someone, not with money, but with something real. You remind me of someone I wish I had in my life when I was younger." He sat quietly. "Why me?" Clara hesitated, then spoke gently. "You walk miles without complaining. You put your daughter first, always, and you do it alone. That's the kind of grit my father admires. It's the kind of man I admire." She handed him a folder. Inside was a job listing: logistics coordinator, benefits, salary, flexible hours. "There's an opening," she said. "You'd have to interview like anyone else, but I'll make sure you're seen." Jacob's throat tightened. He hadn't cried in years, not even at the funeral, but he felt it now, behind his eyes. "I don't want charity," he said quietly. "This isn't charity, it's a door. You still have to walk through it." New beginnings. 3 weeks later, Jacob wore a collared shirt to work for the first time in years. Emma had picked it out. "Blue makes you look like a boss," she said. He got the job. Now he drives Emma to school every morning before heading to Weston HQ. Clara checks in from time to time, sometimes in person, sometimes through messages. Emma sends her drawings with captions like, "I built this castle with leaf. One day I'll build a real one." Clara always replies. One afternoon, Weston Global hosted a family futures event. Employees were encouraged to bring their kids and showcase their dreams. Emma, standing proudly next to her hand-built model of a park, pointed at Jacob and shouted, "That's my dad. He walks through anything." Clara, standing beside her father and a board of directors, smiled. "She's right," she whispered to herself. "He does."